Let's rewind the clock back to December 2018. You come back home from school, eager to play the new Fortnite season you've been waiting all day to play. The entirety of the outside world is covered in a beautiful sheet of snow, and you make yourself a cup of delicious hot cocoa as you turn on your console and launch Fortnite. Suddenly, everything's changed. Fortnite has a Christmas-themed cutscene for the new season to introduce the new map, the background's all different, and the battle pass has festive-themed skins that not only match the season, but the new map as well. All of your friends are on the game and you cannot wait to invite them and experience this all together. Little did we know back then, but we were truly living in the golden age of gaming. I think it's undeniable to admit that Fortnite has possibly had one of, if not the largest impact on the gaming industry. It was a worldwide cultural phenomenon. I mean, athletes were doing Fortnite emotes, it was on the news, Fortnite streamers were appearing on talk shows, and even Ellen. Now I think these facts are quite clear to most people. I mean, even parents who have never touched the game know it exists and how much of a massive thing it was. When a lot of parents think of the word gaming, Fortnite is probably the first game they think of. I mean, that's just how much of an impact this game had in its peak year of 2018, which, by the way, in the grand scheme of things, is quite a short time to be at the top, especially considering the impact and change that Fortnite created in such a short period. It's very impressive. I think most people struggle to see the full scope of what Fortnite actually changed in the gaming industry as a whole, and honestly, I'm not sure we'll ever get a game such as this again. And for these reasons, I've decided to create a retrospective deep dive into Fortnite, examining both the game and what made it so popular, but also examining the huge shift that it created in aspects of the entertainment industry like streaming and gaming. Is it really all nostalgia that encourages us to see these years of our life with rose-tinted glasses, or is there some truth behind this positive outlook? And was the game truly just better back then? Whatever the case may be, one thing stands certain: Fortnite changed gaming forever. But first, let's take a look at the evolution of Battle Royale games over the years and how Fortnite used past mistakes to create a refined and polished experience for players. One of the first examples of a true Battle Royale experience within a video game was Minecraft's survival games, which drew heavily from 2008's The Hunger Games, where players would start with no equipment on different pedestals and have to scavenge their way around the map for resources in an attempt to be the last person alive, as the playable area ultimately shrinks. We can attribute the early popularity of the Battle Royale genre largely to Minecraft, as it was an accessible game that had a huge player base peak of its own, popularizing the genre and introducing many people to it. Funnily enough, Fortnite actually has many links to Minecraft in how it handles player freedom and the Battle Royale game mode, namely the fact that Minecraft was extremely accessible. I mean, any player could get in and play creative or survival and even play the different mini-games that Minecraft had, like survival game. It is this accessibility that made Minecraft so popular and in turn led to the surge in players wanting to fill the Battle Royale void that was currently present in gaming. Although, while Minecraft survival games was very popular and almost everyone remembers it very fondly now, it did highlight the flaws and innate randomness in a Battle Royale that never seemed to go away with any installment. There was no way to ensure you had the high ground definitively in each fight. It was almost never a fair fight in terms of weapons and resources, with one player almost being stronger than the other, leading to most engagements within survival games being what felt like luck-based or skill-based, depending on how you look at it realistically. Point being, it was an extremely unique take on PvP combat that the gaming industry had not really seen before. I mean, in fighting games, both characters would be equally balanced and fights came down to pure game knowledge and skill, while in shooter games, yes, there were certain overpowered weapons in games like Modern Warfare 2, but for the most part, all guns were on an equal playing field and could be used. All players had the same amount of guns and same health, leading to battles again being mostly just game sense and aim oriented. With survival games changing this norm in gaming, it provided a unique experience that players had not really seen before in this way, and demonstrated the flaws also that a mode like this could bring. Nothing exactly stopped players from camping, building to building until the last zone only to sneak up on the last guy and get an easy win. Are you better than all of the players you just outlived? Well, no, but the game still crowned you a winner, and technically you did beat all of those other players. This sort of gameplay loop does not necessarily correlate wins with skill, and players would look for other means to determine who was the best in the game. As the years went on, the Battle Royale genre began to get more and more games and mods tied to it. Brendan Green, or Player Unknown, created a mod for Arma 2, DayZ, in which he implemented popular features of Minecraft survival games, such as the shrinking player zone and scavenging to be the last person alive, sacrificing the open-endedness of DayZ to implement more PvP interactions. Then came H1Z1, where many of the Fortnite streamers we still see today got their first large audiences, more specifically, Ninja. I mean, who hasn't seen this clip?
The fuck you say to me, you little shit?
H1's proximity and death voice chat features made the game not feel as if you were just fighting other players, but other people It created a narrative, an almost story element where each match would provide different social experiences. This is another way that Battle Royale games managed to innovate over the years, which seemed to be a common trend going forward. Then of course, everybody knows about PUBG, the giant that took the internet by storm when it was released in March of 2017. PUBG is probably the reason why Epic Games even decided that making a Battle Royale mode was a good idea, so really we've got them to thank. But seriously, PUBG popularized the Battle Royale genre like never before, and it seemed like everyone was playing it. Despite the aforementioned innate issues with BR games, and these were even worse on PUBG, you see PUBG takes place on a large map with various different points of interest or POIs scattered around this giant landmass. With this vast amount of open space comes challenges in how gunfights take place. I mean, in PUBG, it was usually the player who saw the other first that won the gunfight, which added an extra element of luck and randomness to a genre that seriously did not need any more. PUBG's large map size and seemingly lack of things to actually do on said map created a gap in the market, a gap which another game could capitalize on to correct the flaws of PUBG, and Fortnite did just that. When Fortnite launched in September of 2017, I don't think anybody could have predicted the rise and impact that this game would have. I mean, many just dismissed it as just another PUBG clone with no unique elements. However, this was not the case. Fortnite introduced its unique building and destruction mechanics from its original Save the World game mode and brought it over to the BR. This unique spin on the typical Battle Royale gameplay loop had filled in the void that PUBG left open. It gave the player more to do on the map, like farming for resources or constructing large bases to aid them in winning. If players were out in the middle of a large field and got shot, they could create makeshift cover by placing down a wall and maybe some stairs to go with it. The addition of these mechanics reduced the luck aspect that PUBG and other past BRs had in their vast open landscapes, and fixed a lot of the common problems that many players have had with this genre. Not only this, Fortnite had a very different and unique approach to its general art style, with many battle royales in the past being gritty mill sims which really only appealed to the older demographic of gamers. Fortnite was cartoony and had silly looking items and animations which made it accessible to way wider of an audience than all the other previous BRs. I mean, in its purest form, Fortnite was still a battle royale game. Engagements would mostly be based upon who had the better loot and more shield, and positioning would also play a key factor in determining the outcome of a match. In the early portion of a match, there is an incredible amount of luck involved in who can find the gun first and who can get more shields first to have a higher chance of winning their first gunfight. Now, despite these innate problems, the game was still so addicting. Like its predecessors, the game had an amazing and satisfying gameplay loop which complemented its mechanics well. The destruction and building mechanics truly made each game feel very different, and scenarios would play out in a wider range of ways than ever seen before. The simple yet cartoony weapons allowed Fortnite to appeal to people of all demographics and create an easy experience for a player just loading in, and I think that's one of the main reasons why Fortnite was receiving so many new players and retaining all of them. I mean, you wouldn't be confused by the UI upon opening the game or loading into a match. You wouldn't be confused as to which is the best out of 3 pump shotguns that feel the exact same. There was a pump shotgun and a semi-automatic shotgun, and that was it. It proved that providing a solid and simplistic foundation is key for player retention and player growth. I mean, it retained most of what made battle royales so fun in the past, the addictive loop of trying to beat your last run and continuously get better to see results. Not to mention, a full match would only be around 20 to 30 minutes long, and so you could easily hop in for a game or two even if you're running short on time. I mean, there was no real large commitment with each match. A thing I find quite unique about the earlier days of Fortnite that don't seem to get talked about enough is just how quiet the game was. I mean, it was quite eerie at times. It was a completely unique vibe that was exclusive to Fortnite, and going back to watch some of those OG old Fortnite clips provides a very different perspective of the game in general. One very unique aspect of Fortnite that I believe was very important in its growth was the addition of the building and destruction mechanics. I mean, many players hadn't seen these ML elements implemented into a battle royale game before, and so everyone was pretty much on the same level of skill and familiarity with it. This made it so that all players started on a level playing field in theory, and gave everyone a chance to get better and be motivated to improve at this new system. Now, while yes, certain mechanics from other games will have carried over, like aim and movement, everyone had to learn together in terms of the actual building and destruction mechanics. This created a fun and engaging culture where new building tech was constantly being discovered, developed, and uploaded to the internet and to sites like YouTube, and people would practice them. Although this was not really present much as the start of the game, it started to become more prevalent as players aimed to become better in the long term. All in all, the game was accessible, the gunplay was easy to learn and practice, and the graphics were suitable for players of all ages. It seemed Fortnite had set out to perfect the Battle Royale formula, and it just might have done so. I think even if you hate Fortnite and how it changed gaming culture, it's undeniable that it implemented some groundbreaking and revolutionary features that so many games are still using to this day. It birthed the concept of a live service game, and while that name may be tainted in 2025 with stinkers like Suicide Squad and Concord, it still remains one of the most popular forms of delivering content within a game, especially ones with multiplayer. Of course, as most people know, Fortnite created the iconic season system, where limited time content would be delivered through large updates every 2 months or so. This allowed exclusive items to be highly sought after by players and gave players something to work and play for every 2 months. It created a sense of intrigue and excitement as to what the new season could change or add, with it being common for fans to speculate online. Now, while initially the system might have largely contributed to the game's initial hype, it may have also led to its eventual downfall, but we'll discuss more about that later. Each season was themed differently. Season 2 was all about the Knights, Season 3 was about astronauts and, well, John Wick. Season 4 was about superheroes and a film being created around them, and I'm sure you get it by now. Each new themed season brought a whole new array of content to the game, especially in terms of map changes that were taking place. I mean, in Season 4, Dusty Depot got hit by a fucking meteor and looked like this, and in Season 5 they just dropped a desert into the bottom right corner of the map. As well as this, each new season expanded upon the cryptic and subtle lore that Fortnite was slowly starting to build up ever since Season 4, but we won't dive into that here since that will just take too long and it's not the point of the video. But point being, with this system, no matter what happened in the season prior, hype would always be guaranteed as players knew that Epic would change the map, battle pass and general theme of the game in the next season. Not only this, it kept the game fresh and ensured that content creators and streamers always had something new to explore and discuss with their fans every 2 months or so. Not to mention the mid-season updates that Epic would sometimes do to change up the game, like adding a new weapon or item. Now, one of the biggest and most notable forms of these updates was the mid-season update in Season 2, where 5 named and 5 unnamed locations were added onto the Fortnite map. One of them being the iconic Tilted Towers, which became a cultural phenomenon in and of itself. These POIs kind of created entire communities with stereotypes being built around each of them, and the people that landed in a specific place. It created character and a sort of personality for each POI and ensured that the Fortnite map was perfectly diverse, but still retained that classic simplicity. But we're diverging a bit here. The point is, Fortnite's season system was a perfect solution created by Epic Games to ensure consistent updates that listened to the community and expanded upon the game that everybody loved. And ever since this system was first introduced back in 2017, games are still doing their best to try to replicate it. It seems like every single multiplayer game that comes out nowadays tries to replicate the magic and hype that used to surround Fortnite's unique seasons, although they never seem to hit quite the same. But why could that be? Well, there could be a few reasons for this. For one, people may have simply grown up. They associate this era of gaming and Fortnite specifically with the excitement and freedom they felt in their childhood. Remember that intro with the snow, the hot cocoa, and the new Fortnite Christmas season? Yeah, nostalgia. Now, this scenario probably didn't even happen for most people watching, but I bet you still felt some sort of nostalgia or familiarity watching it, remembering the simpler times of your childhood. I mean, clearly, nostalgia plays a huge part in how you remember these seasons. A second reason could be due to fatigue. I mean, when Fortnite were doing their initial first seasons, it was the first time a game had really done something similar to this, and it was new to everybody. But over the years, as more and more dev companies have tried to replicate that magic, people may have simply just gotten tired and want a new way to approach content within game. Whatever the reason may be, it's clear that Fortnite's completely changed the way that AAA devs approach multiplayer games, and honestly at this point, it's spreading to single player games as well. What else did Fortnite add? Oh yeah, the Battle Pass. I mean, this thing is again still being used by multiplayer games to this day, but still it could never capture the original magic that Fortnite managed to back in 2018. The Battle Pass was a unique monetization scheme created by Epic Games that gives the player rewards through a tiered system. There would be 2 tracks, a free track and a paid track, where the player would have to pay 950 V-Bucks, roughly around $10, to access these rewards. It was a clever incentive for players to play the game a lot, and people who may not have bought the paid track would be feeling as if they were missing out on all the rewards they could have unlocked up to this point, and so likely would buy the paid track eventually. The Battle Pass was a progression system with an insane value. I mean, just for the price of $10, you'd get 100 entire tiers worth of rewards like skins, pickaxes, emotes, eventually back blings and more. The low price of the battle pass meant that it was very accessible to most people, a common theme that we will see across the entirety of this game, and this in turn meant that more people would be buying the battle pass and more people would be playing for longer to unlock all the rewards to get their money's worth. Quite frankly, it was a genius monetization scheme from Epic Games, and it's no wonder that after they introduced this system, it has been in what feels like every single multiplayer game since. This again being another example of the many changes that Fortnite made to the gaming industry with its unique features and ideas, changes that are still easy to see to this day. Another feature that gained popularity after its implementation in Fortnite was the item shop system, where skins for certain characters or things in the game were sold for in-game currency in the game's item shop. Now yes, variations of this did exist in the past, however, Fortnite popularized this concept and left its mark on the multiplayer genre. Speaking of the item shop, later down Fortnite's lifecycle, they began doing collabs with other pieces of media like Marvel, DC, rappers. I mean, at the time of making this video, you can basically think of anyone or anything famous and it's probably in Fortnite. This type of integration was a first for the gaming industry when Fortnite did it. No one had ever seen a game do this before. I mean, gaming simply just wasn't mainstream enough, but Fortnite proved that it was possible, and ever since, other dev companies have tried to follow suit. Not to mention, Fortnite was the first popular game to integrate seamless crossplay, where people across consoles and even PC could play together. It was an incredible way to connect the entire gaming world and allowed friends to play together irregardless of platform, ensuring that everyone had someone to play with. Not only did this increase Fortnite's player base and make it more accessible for everyone, it also pioneered crossplay for the gaming industry, with it essentially becoming a standard for multiplayer games to have after Fortnite implemented it so well. It's just crazy how many features and ideas Fortnite created, all from a simple battle royale game mode, that have managed to stand the test of time and still be used to this day throughout all genres of multiplayer gaming. From battle passes to just the concept of a live service gaming experience, it's clear that Fortnite pioneered the gaming industry in ways nobody had seen before in both gaming and monetization aspect. It definitely was the start for a new era of gaming, and its features will continue to be used for the foreseeable future. I don't think it's a wild thing to say that there will likely never be another game like Fortnite. I mean, the timing of when it released was perfect. It perfectly coincided with the rise of streaming platforms and YouTube becoming more mainstream. Not only did it coincide with these things, but it directly contributed to them. To be honest, the stars kind of aligned for Epic Games when they released Fortnite. It was at the exactly perfect time for their popularity to skyrocket. Now, I'm not saying Fortnite was only popular because of these external factors, however, it's undeniable that they were a massive contributor to the worldwide cultural phenomenon that Fortnite eventually became. Streamers like Ninja, Myth, Daquan and Tfue all blew up from this game and became a pivotal point in the culture of Fortnite at that point. It's likely that if you weren't playing Fortnite at that current moment, you were watching it, because at this point Fortnite had already taken over both the streaming space and the content creation space, helping Twitch become the hub for live streaming games that it is today. Fortnite was easy to watch and easy to commentate over, making it an ideal game to stream or watch someone else play. There was a good balance between action and downtime. During this downtime, streamers could interact with their community, and overall Fortnite's gameplay loop contributed greatly to the overall enjoyability of the content being produced at this time. Even though YouTube was already well established at this point, Fortnite still became the most talked about thing on it, generating billions of videos showcasing new seasons, exploits, montages, etc. It created an entirely new wave of popularity on these platforms that honestly had never been seen before. I mean, the closest thing is maybe Minecraft, but it's debatable whether that was as massive as OG Fortnite. Either way, the rise of Fortnite perfectly aligned with that of Twitch, propelling both to incredible heights, and I think this is one of the many reasons that a game like Fortnite and how popular it was may not exist again in the foreseeable future. I mean, sure, there will be new games that everyone's playing, and a good example of one of these games may be GTA 6. Who knows? GTA 6 could be on Fortnite levels of popularity or even surpass it, but even then, I still think people will think of Fortnite higher simply just because of the unique circumstances it was in at the time and the unique points at which it entered most people's lives. One of the interesting things that I noticed that happened during Fortnite's life cycle and its influence on the streaming space is how it transformed it. I mean, Twitch was always a platform for live streaming yourself playing games, but a lot of the top creators on Twitch were at the top because of their creativity or humor. However, when Fortnite gained its immense amount of popularity and as streamers got better and better at the game, the focus of streamers switched slightly from wanting to be the most entertaining to wanting to become the best at the game they were playing. I mean, it wasn't initially like this in Fortnite's early days. Sure, a lot of these streamers were really good, that's undeniable, but there were both sides to the coin. I mean, on one hand, you had the really good streamers that you'd watch just because they were good. Maybe you'd want to see the tactics they were doing or were just impressed by how good they were. But then there were the streamers you'd watch just for entertainment. You know, maybe they weren't at the top of the leaderboards or grinding all day every day to be the best, but they were funny and entertaining, and that's why people watched them. But over the course of Fortnite's life cycle, it became a lot more rare for these types of streamers to pop up and for people to actually watch them. It seems like in present day Fortnite, the biggest streamers are the pro players and the ones you watch simply because of their skill, leaving little room for streamers with entertainment and comedy being their biggest goal. Now, I don't think this sentiment stretched itself all the way across the gaming space. I mean, there's still plenty of comedy or entertainment-based streamers. Some of the biggest creators on Twitch put entertainment above all else. But specifically in terms of Fortnite and multiplayer games in general, there definitely was a shift in this time period. Could it be that these streamers simply provided more value to the viewer watching, as they could both learn and talk to the streamer directly? Or was this directly caused by the new surge of wannabe esports players that emerged after Fortnite's immensely popular tournaments with high prize pools? Yeah, it's obvious to see that Fortnite grew the competitive gaming scene in a way not seen before. I mean, in 2019, Fortnite hosted a World Cup with a total prize pool of $30 million, which at the time of recording this is the third largest prize pool for any esports tournament ever, aka it's a lot of money. Not to mention, the kid that won, Booga, was only 16 years old when he did. The event was broadcasted on television for parents and kids all around the world to see, and all of a sudden, esports is being shown to parents as this lucrative career path where millions can be earned, and before you know it, you have an entire generation of kids wanting to be the best they possibly can at this game, with their parents supporting them. Now, I'm not saying this is a bad thing. Competition in games is great, and I think the esports industry needs all the popularity it can get, but I think it's important to highlight how this one singular game had such a profound impact on the industry. And again, biggest of all factors, Fortnite was accessible. Anyone could get in for a match or two and have some fun. The skill floor was not very high, and so many people could get a few kills. After all, it was a battle royale. Even the worst people can pick up a few kills if they're lucky. Crossplay integration also meant that friends could team up with each other and foster great communication and competition amongst teams. All of these factors combined to form a game that became extremely prominent in esports and still is. Other games like PUBG, Call of Duty and Apex Legends all borrowed from Fortnite to try and capture some of that same excitement and intrigue that surrounded the game in its first events. As well as this, the viewer experience for Fortnite esports somehow felt a lot different. It was almost as if it was more story based. I mean, the Battle Royale format definitely made it feel that way. There were replays, different camera angles, multiple POVs, different height levels that players would be on. I mean, all in all, it was just an exciting experience, and the esports almost felt like it had personality to it, as strange as it is to say. Even just moving away from esports specifically, Fortnite changed multiplayer games too. It changed the focus of players from fun to competition, and ensured that in each game, winning was the main focus. I mean, sure, tryhards were a thing before Fortnite, however the frequency of them increased after Fortnite's massive surge in popularity, and overall the landscape of multiplayer gaming seemed to change on the competitive side. I think it's also important to mention that changes that Epic brought to the free-to-play model with Fortnite. I mean, before Fortnite, free-to-play games were mostly seen as cheap cash grabs with extremely big pay-to-win schemes and egregious monetization tactics to try and siphon as much money out of the player as possible. And I mean, it's a fair assessment. Before 2017, if your game was free to play, it usually immediately put a bad taste in people's mouth due to bad past experiences with so-called free to play games. Either they were poorly and cheaply made due to the lower budget, or they were littered with pay-to-win microtransactions to try and compensate for the fact that there was no guaranteed income from purchases of the game itself. Sometimes it was both of these things. Either way, it's safe to say that before Fortnite, free to play games did not have a great reputation. But in 2017, when Fortnite debuted its player-friendly and non-pay-to-win monetization scheme coupled with constant updates that listened to community feedback, it shifted perception gradually over time. As time went on, more and more multiplayer games began adapting this model. CSGO, one of the most popular games of all time, changed itself to be free to play in December 2018 with a Prime upgrade option for additional game features. Alongside this, more free games got released, like Apex Legends, Valorant, Warzone, even Overwatch released a free-to-play sequel. Fortnite demonstrated the potential in a free-to-play model. It had AAA quality with stunning graphics, smooth animations, and a satisfying gameplay loop which proved to other developers that quality like this could be met with a free-to-play model. Alongside this, Fortnite's focus on cosmetic-only microtransactions ensured that their in-game purchases did not grant the player an advantage in any way. This really built a lot of early goodwill and trust in Epic, while also removing a lot of the stigma around free-to-play games mentioned earlier. As Fortnite progressed and got further into its life cycle, the stigma around this model has pretty much disappeared, with high-quality premium content updates constantly being released for Fortnite. It's safe to say that Fortnite completely transformed the public opinion surrounding the free-to-play model, and has in a way also made it expected for upcoming live service games to be free to play due to the immense success of something like Fortnite. We often talk about the good old days or golden Fortnite as being this time of when the game was at its peak, the absolute pinnacle of Fortnite, where the gameplay and community surrounding the game were at their best, and this time is usually quite early on in the grand scheme of Fortnite's life cycle. So this really begs the question, was this time so fondly remembered solely because the game was just genuinely that good, and the community was just so popping and the entire space was at its peak, or is nostalgia tainting these views, forcing us to see these simpler times in our life and remember them fondly, ignorantly discarding all negative aspects of that time period? Well, it's quite a nuanced topic in all honesty. The human brain works in many different weird ways, but there is one thing for certain. It definitely was not all nostalgia. I mean, one of the biggest standouts of Fortnite back then was its simplicity and accessibility. Never before had we seen a game so popular be so bare bones in terms of its weapons, map, and just general gameplay loop. Sure, the locations were iconic and still are to this day, but they were quite limited. I mean, you had a bunch of cities, some towns, some factories, and some other unique locations. But the point is, this initial simplicity was one of the biggest factors that led to Fortnite's intense and rapid growth. Players didn't have to spend ages learning the mechanics or going through tedious tutorials to get to actually play the game on a competitive level. They could simply pick up the game and play, and getting better was not the most complex of endeavours. I think this is a pivotal part of examining how people perceive old Fortnite. In a lot of discussions you might hear the word simplicity or simple get tossed around a lot because most people recognise the huge role that this played in the game's enjoyment and the uniqueness of it all too. I mean, again, this was quite unheard of at the time. Although there is a part of me that also thinks people could be mistaking this supposed simplicity of Fortnite for the simplicity that was present in their lives when they initially started playing Fortnite. I mean, a lot of people that are in Gen Z right now were kids or younger teenagers when Fortnite came out. The lack of responsibilities and worries in their life, coupled with the games they were playing at that time, can definitely lead to a sense of fondness when remembering time periods like these. Not to mention, old Fortnite lacked the overpowered mechanics and game-breaking items that modern Fortnite tends to rely on as being gimmicks for their seasons. OG Fortnite mainly relied on balanced gameplay where players wouldn't get frustrated because someone happened to find an overpowered item that they stood no chance against. Again, this drew more players into the game and made it feel as if everyone had a chance, as if everyone was on an equal playing field, and encouraged constant improvement from the fanbase. Another reason people perceive old Fortnite so positively looking back is what I like to call gaming pre-The Great Shift. I mean, as mentioned before, Fortnite propelled the world of esports and competitive focused gaming into heights it had never seen before. I mean, there are more aspiring esports pros now than there have ever been. However, back then in the early days of Fortnite, this competitiveness and hunger for players being the best they could be was not really present. I mean, sure, you had the streamers and the players fighting for top spots on the leaderboard, but most people were just playing for fun and discovering the game and its mechanics together. This lack of tryhards and competitiveness at the start of Fortnite was another factor that increased its accessibility and allowed more players to comfortably get started playing the game. People may prefer a simpler time like this when multiplayer gaming's main purpose was just to have fun, and they may not like the newer, more competitive nature, and so they look to Fortnite as being the last multiplayer game with that sort of perspective being put on it, and may remember it fondly for this reason specifically, remembering all the fun times they had with their friends in a time of minimal worry in their lives. Fortnite's unique ideas and perfect time frame of launching also massively contributed to the incredible uniqueness of the game. Events like the Meteor, the rocket launch, and the cube moving into Loot Lake were monumental live events that brought the entire community together to watch a spectacle. It was the first game to ever have really done this, and it created a unique sense of community within the player base, with players fondly being able to recall the live events and the time periods that their lives were at when it happened, as well as the friends they had at the time. It all just lines up perfectly to create memories that overall paint a great picture of Fortnite in retrospective. However, was this really the case? Was Fortnite's supposed perfect nature in the old days truly a result of Epic Games' innovation and ideas? Or does nostalgia morph this time period? Well, it's undeniable that Fortnite did have issues in those days. I mean, there were numerous bugs and a wide range of balancing issues that Epic constantly needed to iron out. Looking back at some old videos from this time period shows that the game was by no means perfect, with the constant issues being pointed out by streamers and YouTubers. I mean, it definitely had its problems, but the difference was that Epic was actually listening to community feedback, implementing updates that were community driven and allowing for all of the player base to have a say in what they think the future of the game holds. This level of community integration was not really seen before in many games and built a lot of good faith between Epic and players early on. Or is this just the way we perceive it? Does nostalgia make us think of these bugs as not a big deal or quickly fixed, simply because we see the game in such a positive light looking back? Does the value of these issues diminish simply because we see this part of our lives so dear to us? Well, to be honest, this is quite a hard topic to understand and examine. While I believe that both game quality and the nostalgia play a part in the positive perception that OG Fortnite receives, it's obvious to see that the game quality was genuinely superior upon launch, and that the uniqueness that Fortnite brought to the gaming industry was unparalleled at that time. Nostalgia does play a part, yes, but the unique features, game loop, soundtrack all merge together to create an accessible, revolutionary take on the BR genre that still remains in people's minds to this day. So what went wrong? I mean, in 2018, Fortnite was consistently gaining more and more viewers on Twitch, more and more content was being created about it on YouTube, and it was in mainstream media what felt like every week, for better or for worse. It seemed like everywhere you went, you couldn't escape it. I mean, it felt like nothing could stop it. But after a year or so, people just kind of got bored. I mean, they'd been on the same map for more than a year at this point. Sure, there were different little changes and new POIs added, but realistically it was mostly the same. Fortnite's increasing focus on its competitive scene via things like the arena mode also dissuaded a lot of the more casual player base that Fortnite had from playing. If you weren't trying to be competitive or were just playing for fun, you might have felt alienated from the updates that Epic was releasing around that season 7 to 10 time period. It's clear that Fortnite's direction was definitely changing. It was no longer the simplistic little battle royale that everyone was new to and exploring for the first time. People were already accustomed to the map, to the overall loot pool, they were starting to master the building mechanics. It had almost become a completely new game from what it used to be. Safe to say this made a lot of people quit. People that joined in the early days felt like the game they used to love just wasn't there anymore, and the players who had just recently picked up the game may have felt it a bit overwhelming and difficult to keep up with the players who had already been playing for years. It created this weird stagnation where Fortnite seemed to constantly be losing more and more players with each season. I mean, sure, you'd have the initial spike when the season launched, but due to the reasons mentioned, players were simply falling out of love with the game. And the game didn't have the facilities to bring in a lot of new players, leading to a decline in the later stages of Chapter 1. The game needed change. And that's exactly what it got. After the end of Season 10, where a black hole sucked to the entire Fortnite map, it gave Epic the chance to completely change key elements of the game. After 36 hours of waiting, the next chapter of Fortnite, quite literally, had begun. With a completely new map, loot pool, new mechanics, a new UI, it really seemed like a new beginning for Fortnite with a more simplified approach. However, this is where a lot of people think that the downfall of Fortnite started, where each new update made the game feel further and further distanced from what it once used to be. Not to mention that this is the chapter where Epic really phoned in on the collaboration skins and events. No longer would you have cool, lore-specific skins at tier 100 in the battle pass where they actually felt like tier 100 skins, but instead fucking Rick or Eren from Attack on Titan. It made the game feel less like a unique experience and more like a desperate cash grab from Epic trying to get more players back into the game by saying, hey look, we have a skin of the thing you like, please come back. It felt like an advertisement. This is also the time period when browsing the store started to feel like trying to read an entire novel, and the game overall started to not feel like a passion project done by developers that loved gaming and wanted to put a unique spin on the battle royale genre, but instead started to feel like a medium for the higher ups at Epic Games to siphon as much money from children as physically possible. One thing we also have to mention is the addition of bots and skill-based matchmaking. Basically, to break it down, Fortnite is obviously a battle royale game, which means only one player or one team can win each game. This means that with each game someone plays, there is around a 99% chance that they will lose that game, provided everyone has an equal chance of winning, of course. This obviously was a problem, as losing 99% of the time you play a game is not fun for most people. So how did Fortnite fix this? Well, with the addition of bots that are absolutely terrible, meaning that basically any person of any skill level can kill them. These bots were in every single game, even for players that were at the highest of the skill ceiling. Now what this meant was that in each game, every single player got a higher chance of winning, in turn maximizing the amount of fun that each player could have in a game, or at least on paper. You see, one of the main selling points of Battle Royale games was the intense thrill of knowing that you were up against 99 other real players, coupled with just how uncommon winning actually was, which meant that when you eventually got the win and were shaking in the top 10 scenario, it felt extremely rewarding and super unique to this genre alone. So when bots were added and matches felt exponentially easier, I feel like it eliminated a core aspect of what made this genre so fun in the first place. Winning itself was so fun because of the challenge, because of the rarity at which it happened back in the day for most people. The game felt like it had lost part of what made it so amazing in the first place. It felt like it had lost part of its soul, its identity. Speaking of lost things, a lot of players nowadays feel like Fortnite has lost the unique art style it tried to achieve back in the day. I mean, just compare these two screenshots. Sure, you could say the one on the right is more realistic and therefore looks better, but there's just something so unique and pure about the art style Epic was trying to create in the early days of Fortnite. It almost felt like a message like, we don't need to be realistic to draw players in, we have faith in our gameplay and mechanics. And I think that's what really set Fortnite apart. With realism being such a big draw for most modern games, it's a shock that Fortnite managed to draw so much of these players in, and so it's confusing why in the modern day, Fortnite is changing its art style to be more and more realistic, reversing the progress and unique feel they achieved in Chapter 1. Is it a ploy to try and draw in more players that crave the realistic look in games, or is it simply just the natural evolution of Fortnite's graphics over the years? Another thing that changed over Fortnite's lifespan, and what many consider to be a downgrade, would be the overall simplicity of the game. As mentioned before, one of the main factors that drew new players into the game and what made it so accessible was the simplicity of everything. Of course, the building mechanic created an extra layer of skill and heightened the skill ceiling, but even then, everything ranging from the map, to the guns, to the UI was simple. It meant that new players loading up the game for the first time weren't bombarded with cutscenes and pop-ups about new events, new battle passes, new game modes, new updates, and the game itself wasn't hard to grasp either. You had a burst assault rifle, a standard assault rifle, and a scoped assault rifle. You had a pump shotgun with a high-risk, high-reward playstyle, or a semi-auto tactical shotgun for a safer approach. Each gun felt like it had a purpose and its own deserved place within the game. Whereas in modern times, it feels like guns are just added to create the illusion of new content. I mean, why use any of the other shotguns when one is just objectively better? Or why use another assault rifle when one of them just dominates the others? It makes everyone run around with virtually the same loadout, while the other items just serve to bloat the experience. And a lot of the time, Epic's new guns are just reskins of their old guns, or very, very similar. I mean, genuinely, what is the difference between the sharp-toothed shotgun and the regular pump shotgun? The pressure on Epic to release content-filled, brand new updates frequently has possibly led to this exhausting of ideas, and forced them to consistently reuse old concepts in a slightly different way, and may have led to Fortnite's loss of identity and passion over the years. Another thing I wanted to touch on was Fortnite's attempts to broaden its experiences into an endless number of game modes. Basically something similar to Roblox, with user-created experiences that each provide a different, experience. Users would be encouraged to make these maps, with Epic giving money to creators who had a lot of concurrent players on their map. They really honed in on this concept at the beginning of Chapter 5 when Epic themselves created modes like LEGO Fortnite, Rocket Racing and Fortnite Festival, a survival type Minecraft clone, a racing game and a rhythm game. Now this all sounds well and good. Epic is just trying to bring in new players that may not necessarily be interested in Battle Royale but are comfortable with the UI and general experience of Fortnite. But I do think this kind of approach to a game causes some very prominent issues. For one, it discourages newer developers from making original, unique games that are separate to Fortnite. I mean, why would a kid pay $10 to $15 for your unique game when they have to learn separate controls, get accustomed to the UI, and possibly even use a separate launcher, when the alternative is simply clicking a button on Fortnite, the game they've already been playing for years? Kids will most likely grow up playing only Fortnite due to the wide range of experiences that are already on there. They have no reason to switch. It's a monopoly of the market where Epic get a majority of the revenue. Not to mention, with Epic taking up so many different avenues, it's a bit hard for them to focus all of their efforts on a single mode. Now, does this inherently mean that all modes are now going to be of less quality? Well, no, but it's worth questioning whether Epic's hunger for market expanse will impact the actual individual quality of their modes, mainly the actual main Battle Royale mode. Now bear in mind, Roblox has already had this approach for upwards of 18 years at this point, but with Epic doing it now too, it can cause some serious problems for the future of gaming in my opinion. Now, for the final section of this video, as it's already getting quite long, let's conclude. Epic Games managed to capitalize on the up-and-coming Battle Royale genre, correcting some of the inherent flaws that it presented, while providing a unique experience which initially set each and every single player on somewhat of a level playing field. It was a competitive and yet casual game that had levels of accessibility rarely seen before in gaming. Its addictive gameplay loop and simplistic features made it one of the most replayable and easy to pick up games at that time, and it's clear to see why it blew up in the way that it did. It completely changed the way that free-to-play games are perceived, as well as how they are actually developed and marketed. It set the bar extremely high for online multiplayer games with the frequent seasonal updates that would usually change key aspects of the game. It invented and popularized so many monetization schemes like the Battle Pass and item shop, where players could buy cosmetic only variants for things in the game like weapons or characters. It absolutely revolutionized the cross-platform area of gaming and made it a standard for new online multiplayer games to have crossplay as a feature, and also to have it seamlessly integrate with the party system in the game. The rise of Fortnite was boosted by the simultaneous rise of the streaming giant Twitch, where streamers like Myth and Ninja would be pulling insane numbers, putting the game out there to a larger audience than ever seen before. It achieved levels of mainstream popularity that were extremely rare in games. I mean, athletes were doing Fortnite emotes, it was on the news, every parent knew about it, it was insane. Fortnite's success is one that is really hard to replicate for other developers, as it capitalized on something that was new in the market and almost perfected it. It's kind of hard to find anything truly new in the gaming industry nowadays, and I think that's why a lot of people just aren't as interested in the new multiplayer games coming out recently. They've seen it all before, they've seen it succeed and then eventually fail as well. I think that's why it's very probable that we will simply not see a game blow up like Fortnite did in the foreseeable future. It's just extremely unlikely and would depend on a multitude of factors which quite frankly just aren't very likely to happen again. Although, Fortnite did also set quite an unhealthy standard for popularity in the gaming industry nowadays. I mean, people are saying that Black Myth Wukong losing 78% of its player base within 2 months means it has fallen off. Like, have people forgotten that single player games exist? You guys know these games have endings, right? Endings where people, stop playing. It created an insanely high standard where your game has to retain most of its player base for it not to fall off in the eyes of quote-unquote gamers on Twitter. Safe to say, Fortnite completely changed the landscape of multiplayer and even single-player gaming in certain aspects. It is a gaming phenomenon that will likely not be seen again. All in all, Fortnite changed gaming forever.